الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى وسلم على سيدنا محمد سيدنا وسندنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا، صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته وأهل بيته ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. All praises to Allah. All praises to Allah. All praises to Allah who guided us to this, who guided us to Islam and to Iman and to His Mubarak house in this Mubarak hour of this Mubarak day. And we were not to be guided, was it not that we were guided by Allah? O Allah, to you is praise as is commensurate with the majesty of your countenance and the greatness of your authority. O Allah, we do not limit you with any praise we can come up with ourselves. Rather, we admit that you are the only one who knows the true extent of your praiseworthiness. And may the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon His servant and messenger, our master Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May the peace and blessings of Allah ta'ala be upon him and upon his noble companions and upon his pure wives and upon his Mubarak and blessed family and progeny, and upon all of those who follow all of their way until the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us to this world with a particular disposition, with a particular form, and with a particular reality. No one was asked, do you want to be created or not? Nobody was asked, how would you like to be created? Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gave forms to all things. The success of every single living thing depends on its ability to own up and make its own its form, to understand its function and to execute it properly and well. We as human beings have a particular problem with this, very natural demand, which is made of all sentient things, all living things. Which is what? Which is that just like the fish lives in water and the bird flies in the air, and the animals of the jungle live in the jungle and the animals of the desert live in the desert, every single thing has a particular ecosystem for which it's made. And it lives there. And it does well. The place that we were made for, it's not on this earth. If you reflect about this reality, you will see that it renders us peculiar amongst living things in a number of ways. Don't you see how every other animal will survive without clothing? If you try living without clothing, other than all sorts of other awkward social things that will happen, you will die in the summer, you will die in the winter. If you don't have a number of institutions that human beings have that are seemingly artificial, they're not natural. A human being cannot be a human being, in fact. If you don't talk to a child, language, if you don't speak to a child until a particular age, they will never be able to speak. They may not even be able to comprehend language. These clothes that we wear, these are not things human beings came to the earth and figured out. Rather, even in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, isn't it related in the Sahih books that on the day of Badr, the companions radiallahu anhum, they saw the angels riding piebald horses and wearing yellow turbans. All of these things that we have, this speech that we have, this clothing that we wear, the idea, the differentiation between things that are pure and things that are filthy, these are all from the adab of the place that we're from, which is Jannah. We're not meant for this place. Inna lillahi ibadun futana, طلقوا الدنيا وخافوا الفتنة نظروا فيها فلما علموا أنها ليست لحي وطنا جعلوها لجة واتخذوا صالح الأعمال فيه سفنا. Allah Ta'ala has certain intelligent slaves. They divorced this world. They said, my relationship with you is over. I'm not married to you anymore. They looked at this place and they said, this dunya is not a homeland for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're born here and you have the blue passport. When it comes to the dunya, everybody is illegal. They're going to all get deported one day. It's bad news, I'm sorry. I mean, some people in this room may have actually done horrendous things in order to get here. Sorry, no one's going to stay. No one's going to stay forever. It's like an ocean, and the only ship that will take you through is what? Righteous deeds. The issue with all of this is what? Is that generally speaking, in every age, a human being has been a human being, and they've been taught Islam on top of that. Why? Because you cannot be a person of knowledge, you cannot be an alim if you're not a functioning Muslim. And you cannot be a functioning or a good Muslim if you're not a functional human being. And so what would the preachers tell their congregations about? They would tell them about, this is how you are a good Muslim, and if there's a problem with people's humanity, if they're doing unhuman things, this is how you be a good human being. Now human beings have gotten to a point where we have to have a remedial, like a 0 step before even this. Which is what? In order to be a good human being, first you have to be a functional animal. We have countries in the Muslim world where 30% of the people are suffering from diabetes. Have you ever seen an animal walking around in the street that eats something that's harmful so much that it needs to take injections in order to eat? Do you see animals celebrating misgendering, celebrating all sorts of like mismatches in what is the basic temperament of that species, in such a way that it will cause that species not to be able to survive. In this world, we're not talking about Jannah right now. We're not talking about the hereafter. We're talking about pure Darwinian survival of the fittest. Why? Because if any species was dumb enough to do that, it would have gone extinct a long time ago. If it's doing it right now, it will go extinct tomorrow. The issue is this: we've been so far removed from our fitrah. We've been so far removed from our aboriginal and our organic nature as human beings, because of the need to adapt to an environment that is not ours, that's not native to us. We've gotten so good at it. We've gotten so good at it that now we've made a habit out of subverting our actual nature, subverting the nature that is supposed to be preserved for the person who entertains the hope of making it to Jannah one day. And it's very easy to get up and pontificate and pitch about culture war issues. It's no secret to anybody who pays attention that Islam and homosexuality don't really get along with one another. People will make ridiculous claims that only have a kind of a phantasm of a life on Twitter and on Facebook. In real life, it doesn't really work. It's a culture war issue. It's something that will be offensive to most Muslims. If the Muslims in America accept it, the Muslims in the Muslim world are not going to accept it anytime soon. But the problem is what? Is that the perversions that lead to other perversions, perversions that are more basic and more simple, that are not culturally offensive. These are perversions that have entered into our households already. They've damaged our ability to function as animals. As what? As animals. And if you're not a functional animal, when I tell you about human nature, what will you benefit? Just like if I tell somebody something about ilm, I teach them some very abstruse matter of aqidah or some very technical matter of hadith transmission, and the person doesn't even know Surah Al-Fatiha. What benefit is it to them? Will they even really understand what they understand, even if they're able to regurgitate strings of words verbatim? And so this is why, interestingly, I find it very ironic, and I find it actually almost humorous. This is why now, mashallah, I have people like me have a career that I can go and lecture people about these issues. About what? Okay, this is how you behave like an animal properly first, so that you can think about how to be a human being. Why? Because I myself grew up in America. I was myself born in America. And some of these lessons I had to learn the hard way, because our parents came from a place, they had no idea what was going on around us. They had no idea what the television we had in our house, how it was influencing us. They had no idea how the phones were going to influence. They had no idea how any of these things are going to work. I grew up getting yelled at by my parents that you're consuming all of this nonsense too much, only to live to see the day that now that that same nonsense content is being produced in their language on YouTube instead of on TV, that they've been sucked into it even worse than we were. It's a dangerous time that we live in. It's a very dangerous time that we live in. So rather than talking about high pie in the sky stuff that I have no control over, because AOL Time Warner doesn't ask me about my opinion for content programming. The government doesn't care about my opinion about anything. Corporations, I don't even exist to them. So let's talk about something simple that we can influence and affect. Because obsessing about things that are beyond your power to control, this itself is a type of madness. Which is what? There is a mas'ala, an issue in the fiqh books, which is particularly insightful for reasons other than the fiqh that it conveys. Which is, in Islam, there's permission for a person to hunt, go hunting. To go hunting. And of the ways of hunting, one of the ways that human beings used to hunt is that they used to train animals. Generally speaking, they train a hunting dog, but you can train a number of animals. You can train hawks, falcons, you can train cheetahs, you can train a number of different animals to hunt for you. And using an animal for hunting to retrieve the prey, to kill the prey, is somewhat similar to like shooting an arrow or throwing a spear at an animal, you say Bismillah before releasing the hunting animal. And then whatever it hits, it hits. If that animal dies while you're stalking it before you can get to it, then it's halal. If it's still alive, you're required to take the knife and say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and slaughter it like you would slaughter a domesticated animal. However, when you use a hunting animal, there's a condition attached to it, which is what? Is that the animal has to be mu'allam, the kalb has to be mu'allam, that animal has to be educated. This mas'ala is not something made up by Hanafi scholars in like Samarkand and Bukhara. This is actually تُعَلِّمُونَهُنَّ مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهِ. This is actually the text of the Quran itself. But why do we need the ulama, the fuqaha? Because then they'll explain to us, what does this mean? So someone says, what does that mean? Does the dog, the hunting dog, have to know physics and chemistry? Does it need to know calculus, or is algebra okay? Should it only know fiqh, or should we teach the dog, tajweed as well? I don't know. What is it? If you look in the tafasir of the Quran, if you look in the books of the fuqaha, the education that the dog needs to have. That what? The dog needs to have is summarized as what? That the dog needs to understand that it's not allowed to eat from the prey that it's retrieving. It should retrieve the prey and bring it back to you, or it should stay with the prey, but it's not allowed to eat from it. If it doesn't have enough self-control to be able to do that, then whatever it kills, that thing is haram and it's najis, it's a ritual impurity, it's filth. It takes the same hukam as urine and feces. Forget about eating it. Whereas if this much knowledge it has, that my master will feed me separately, but when I'm on a job, when I have a job to do, I can't eat from the prey. This is the ta'aleem, this is the high school diploma, this is the GED that you give to this dog, this is his master's degree, PhD. This makes it the Shaykh amongst the kilab. This is the ta'aleem. تُعَلِّمُونَهُنَّ مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Something magical happens now, that when that dog sinks its teeth into that prey, now all of a sudden that animal is halal to eat. You can feed your family. It's something that will be something that will help you to say your prayers. It will help you to speak the truth. It will nurture and foster iman inside of your heart. Now, we're talking about what? A dog. In none of the languages of the Muslims is calling somebody a dog considered a compliment. If you want to be culturally, if you want to be a man of the ummah, you should learn how to call someone a dog in at least 7 languages. Because it's an insult in every single one of them. It's reported that Imam Nasai, he accidentally bumped into somebody in the street one time. The guy says, yeah, kalbi, calls him a dog. And Imam Nasai says, no, the dog, bal kalb la ya'arf. Mi'ata kalimat lil kalb. The dog is the one who's so stupid he doesn't know like 100 other synonyms for dog. You don't even have enough style to insult me properly. But what happens? Something magical happens. When it understands you cannot eat from the prey when you're on master's job, he'll feed you separately. Then what happens? The royal dog is different than the dogs in the street. The dogs in the street are killed and run over with impunity. Nobody grieves for them. The royal dog, the one who is in the retinue of the king, if the entire qawm, humans are starving to death, still that dog will have something to eat. Still that dog will live in the palace where other people live in squalor. If this is the honor of learning this lesson that Allah Ta'ala gives to kutta, what do you think the honor is that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gives to a human being that learns this lesson? Conversely, because we haven't learned this lesson, we look at the lives of our illustrious ancestors and we say, well, I'm a Muslim and they're a Muslim. How come what happened for them isn't happening for me? Because, my brother, you were not a kalb mu'allim. You were just a regular kalb. I'm just a regular kalb. When we see something tasty, we're like, and we sink our teeth into it, and it becomes foul, putrid. The most pure of things, when we sink our teeth into it, it becomes najis. Whereas everything they used to touch became tahir. It became pure. This is why your wife doesn't listen to you. This is why your husband doesn't listen to you. This is why your kids don't listen to you. This is why your friends and family don't listen to you. This is why your neighbors don't care about your religion. This is why you're of irrelevance, like other nations were before, whereas they weren't. Because we don't know just this one thing, that the master sent us for a job. Don't eat from that. He'll feed you separately. The ability to literally control what you eat. The easiest way to get kicked out of a masjid, get booed off stage, and to be shunned as if you are walking around with like the next variant of COVID, that people will wear masks around you as a preacher, is to tell people this is halal, this is not halal. It's not just a fiqh issue, brothers and sisters. It's not just a fiqh issue. There are many things that are appetizing and appealing. They're not for you over here. The master will feed you separately. He'll feed you separately in this world, and he'll feed you separately in the hereafter. However, if you wish to dirty every appealing thing that you see with the snot on the tip of your nose and with the saliva in your mouth, foul and filthy, you'll screw up every single thing that you touch. I was asked to talk about futuwa. You want to talk about being a man? This is the foundation of how a person is going to be a man. Why? Because a human being is murakkab. He's a compound between an angelic nature and between an animalistic nature. And guess what? Both of them are good. Both of them are good. Don't you see amongst the animals, there are some very noble animals. They say if a person gets like shipwrecked in the ocean, there are dolphins that will literally save human beings. They'll take them to the shore. They get nothing out of it. I get a lot of flack about talking about Darwinian theory from people. But there is no Darwinian benefit conferred by saving a person's life. This is what? This is the pure nur that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and rahmah and fadl that He puts down in His creation, amongst His creation. And then there are some of the animals, they're snakes. No arms and legs. You don't need arms and legs. All you are just a stomach, a mouth and a stomach and an anus to defecate what you're done without afterward. It just like eats once every several weeks sometimes because it has nothing else to do. It doesn't do anything endearing. There's nothing cute about it. It just consumes and that's it. That's all it's there for. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ وَلَا طَائِرٍ يَطِيرُ عَلَى جَنَاحَيْهِ إِلَّا أُمَمٌ أَمْثَالُكُمْ. There is no animal that crawls in the earth, nor any bird which flies on its two wings, except for there is amongst them likenesses of you, and one of the tafasir is that there's amongst you likenesses of them as well. So this is a very basic remedial lesson we have to learn. We have to teach ourselves. You don't have to eat everything that's put in front of you. Imagine if this is the power that Allah gave to a dog, that it will turn that thing, it would have become najis from before, it makes it halal. Imagine you're built on the ahsani taqweem, laqad karramna bani Adam, on the most beautiful of forms. Allah Ta'ala honored you amongst all of His creation. You say La ilaha illallah, which is the greatest honor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could give somebody. So imagine what would it do for you and what would it do for me as well. Allah Ta'ala give tawfiq. Walillahi alhamd. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قال الرب تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبعد. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وقال عز وجل في كتابه الكريم مخبرا عن مقام نبيه صلى الله عليه وسلم وآمرا إذ قال: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وارحم محمدا وآل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت ورحمت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وأغننا بفضلك عمن سواك وعما سواك يا رزاق ويا أرحم الراحمين ويا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير سألك منه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك منه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين، وأن تغفر لنا وترحمنا، وإذا أردت بعبادك فتنة فاقبضنا إليك غير مفتونين. اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب العمل يقربنا إلى حبك. اللهم اجعل حبك أحب إلينا من الماء البارد. اللهم اجعل حبك أحب إلينا من النفس ومن المال ومن الولد يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث، أصلح لنا شأننا كله ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول بيننا وبين معاصيك، ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك، ومن اليقين ما تهون علينا مصائب الدنيا. اللهم متعنا بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقواتنا ما أحييتنا، واجعله الوارث منا، واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا، وانصرنا على من عادانا، ولا تجعل فتنتنا في ديننا، ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا، ولا تسلط علينا من لا يرحمنا. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. صلى الله تبارك وتعالى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Inshallah, double check, make sure your phones are off. I'm checking even though I know it's in airplane mode. Double check, inshallah. If you don't know how to shut off the ringer, ask the person next to you. It would be a shame if someone's phone rang in this Mubarak hour. يطير بجناحيه not على جناحيه. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع. وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة. أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر. إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, just an announcement for expediency's sake, I'll make it myself. There is a program tonight at 6:30 p.m. It is going to be the introductory program to the Futuwa weekend, talking about manhood. This is a very important topic. It's a very necessary topic if we wish to survive as a community and as families. It's open to everybody tonight, 6:30 p.m. And there is an RSVP link. I'm sure there are flyers outside. You can get it from there. And then tomorrow, all day from 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. This is for brothers only and for ages 13 and up, because we are going to talk about certain things that may not be appropriate for small children. We are going to have a workshop on manhood and Islam. Again, 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday, and registration is required. The registration link you can find from the posters outside, or you can go to ic3nj.com/futuwa, FUTUWWA, and register. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.